Okay, at this time, I'd like to call the Lee County Board of Supervisors regular meeting, May 14, 2015 to order. First item on the agenda is public hearing. Mr. Poe.
That matter, on Monday morning, I was contacted by the principal with Galaxy Land Company, and he advised that he was withdrawing the application. So with the withdrawal of that, matters off the table. There's no need to conduct a public hearing. There's no further action required of the board.
Okay, first item on the agenda is departmental reports. Litter Control, Josh Flamer.
Good evening. The community service totals for the month of April is there's 124 people in the program, 61 participated for a total of 524 hours, 410 bags that come out to 4 bags per person and four hours per person and 3 bags per person, and 9 hours per person participating and 7 bags per person participating. It was a 49% participation. Only 1 person completed community service, and there was none removed for inactivity, and I signed up 10 more people for community service. On April 16th, I picked up computers from the Lee County Career and Technical Center, or VOTEC. I got 12 printers, 7 switches, 16 monitors, a phone unit, and then there was 2 boxes of phone parts that went with the phone, and then there was 2 fans that go inside the computer. On May 5th, I went to the Lee County Animal Hospital. They had some paper that they were wanting to recycle. There was 14 boxes of paper, and there was ended up being 6 bags of paper and 52 boxes. And in the health department, they also had boxes they wanted picked up, and I picked those up the same day, and there was 23 boxes that I picked up for recycling. On April 17th, we mowed the Stone Creek Outdoor Classroom. I also changed the trash bags and picked up some metal that someone had left there. I emptied the cigarette butts from the cigarette bins, and I cleaned the walkway. And then we mowed the park again on May 1st. There was a little bit of miscommunication, but when I got there, Bruce and the guys had already mowed the park. So when I got there, I worked on the trees in the park. I removed some of the covers and wirings around it because the trees are growing up and growing into that, so I removed that. I took some of the tie downs and covers off the trees so they could grow. There was one big 20-foot tree that had blown over, but the roots were still attached, so I stood that tree back up and tied it down. There's 176 trees located inside the park. Approximately 151 are alive and 25 are dead. I brought this up at our KSBB meeting. They're going to work on getting us trees to replace the dead ones, and once they get them to me, then I will take those up there and take the dead ones out and put the new ones in. I have to get the same type of tree, so because the way it was laid out, those trees grow certain heights and stuff, so we have to put the same tree back in as the one we take out. I've started doing the roadside trash cleanups. On April 17th, I picked up Wilderness Road on the west side past Flatwoods, from Burning Well Road up to Texas Drive. There was 3 bags. It was roughly 4/10 of a mile. On April 23rd, we picked up trash on Holiness Hollow Road. There were 16 bags and 2 tires. We also picked up part of Giles Hollow Road starting at Home Place Road. We went about 3 miles and got 27 bags and 4 tires. And then that day we also picked up the first half a mile on Possum Hollow Road. We got 4 bags from that road. On April 24th, we finished Giles Hollow Road, and we got 16 more bags of tire and other. Other is defined as anything that's not a bag or a tire. I mean, it could be coolers, carpet, trash, anything, or not trash, but anything that's not inside a bag or a tire, I classified it as other. We also picked up Burning Well Road. We picked up the whole road from one end to the other. There was 34 bags and 1 tire, and then on Burning Well Road there's a little side road. It's maybe 1/3 of a mile long, and we got a bag and two others off of that. That was a cooler and a bumper off a car. And the same day we were stopped at Jonesville Park and Ride, and we picked up the trash around the park and ride, and there was 3 bags that we picked up from there. On May 8th, we picked up State Route 606 from the park all the way up to Rock Lick Road. We got 19 bags and 4 tires. We also did the first mile on Sand Lick and got 3 bags, and then the first half a mile off of Rock Lick, and we got 6 bags and 7 others. While I was on Rock Lick, there over the bank there's a dump site, so I've added that dump site to the list of dump sites to be cleaned up when I start again in November. Also on State Route 6, someone has been dumping illegally. It's approximately 1.8 miles. It's on the right after you pass the park and go up through there. We picked all that up and pulled that up over the bank so they could send the boom truck up there to pick that up. And there was 21 bags, 3 tires, and 65 others. And they had carpet, vinyl siding, dish drainer, lawn chair. Just looked like trash that someone had took out of an old house and just dumped there. While we were picking up State Route 606, there was a citizen that had asked me about that, and I told him I didn't have the tag number. I had the description of the vehicle, but not the tag number. He said that he sees that truck a lot and he'll keep an eye on it, and if he gets that tag number, he's going to give it to me, and then I'll take care of the issue once I get the tag number. Also on May 8th, after we did 606, we went over to Stickleyville and did all of Ray Rasnick Road. We got 18 bags, 7 tires, and so far the roadside trash pickups, the totals, I've got 171 bags, 17 tires, 81 others, and it's roughly been 12.5 miles of road that we've picked up so far. And those pickups is just me, and then I get 4 inmates from Duffield, and we go out and pick that up. That's what those pickups are. That's what the roadside is. That's what I classified that as, is me and the inmates. The complaints in the Rose Hill area, there's one complaint I've been working on for a few months now. I tried to contact the property owner several times in the past month, and I finally did get a hold of them this past week. I explained that they've had more than enough time to find a replacement for the upkeep of the property because they had someone who was doing it and that person went to jail, and I explained to them they had 7 days from that day I talked to them. If they didn't get it done in the 7 days, I would be down there 8:30 a.m. Wednesday morning, May 20th, to check it, and if they had nothing done, I'd be coming straight back to the courthouse to file charges because they've had more than wait enough time to get that cleaned up, and they've not done nothing. I've also had several complaints about a property located in the Herald subdivision. I sent out a certified letter May the 12th, and I told them I needed a response by May 22nd, so I've not had a response from that, but they got a few more days. The complaint on Town Branch Road, I'm having trouble locating the right property owner. I've sent several letters and a certified letter to the address I have. I even went to the treasurer's office to see if they had a different address on tax file. They have the same one as I have. I'm trying to contact the property owner. Once I do, then I can go from there on that one. I'm also going to try to get that condemned because the roof's caved in and you can't live in it, and it's a bad eyesore, so I'm trying to get that one taken care of. I also had another complaint on State Route 70 past Blackwater. When I received the complaint on April 27th, they said there was appliances, washers, dryers, dishwashers, all kinds of trash, barrels all over the yard. When I went over there to investigate it, this was not the case. There was 1 barrel in the yard, and then there was kids' toys in a corner. So there was nothing to do there, so I just closed that file. I've also got a complaint to go investigate in the Klondike area in Stickleyville. The agenda for May and June is to continue with the roadside pickups, to work on getting the trees replaced at Stone Creek. Also have the Earth Day Field Day event at St. Charles. Mike Giles from Lone Mountain contacted me. That is set for June the 10th. So I will be doing the Trash for Treasures, where the kids will get to make wind socks out of 2-liter bottles and ribbon and stuff, and they'll get to take those home. And then also to continue working on my complaints. And one other thing I wanted to mention, anytime that you all have any road in your district that you would like picked up, just contact my office and let me know what road that is, and I'll add it to the list and we'll go pick those up. Is there any questions?
Mr. Crabtree?
No.
Mr. Mosley?
I talked to the building inspector last night night before last, about condemning that building down there on Town Branch. And
Okay.
so hopefully that'll move forward.
Okay.
And we can,
Get something, because it's a bad.
yeah, just keep trying and see if you can get a hold of them.
Mr. Sling? Mr. Rupp?
Yes, I just have a couple comments, well, maybe a question. Are you still applying for the DEQ litter grant?
Yes,
We still do that
yes,
on an
we
annual
do.
basis?
Yes.
Okay, good. And also, I thank you for the work done on Rock Lick and Sand Lick and for finding the other dump up there and for putting that on your list. And on Town Branch, how many letters have you sent to that location?
I think it's 4, but I can't.
Okay, I think the code actually, is it 90 days? If they don't respond, there are some other measures that you can take.
Yeah.
If you can't locate them.
Right.
And then we can add it back to their taxes to
Right.
get that taken care
There's
of.
something
So-
in there that does that,
Yeah,
so I was,
yeah.
when it gets to 90 days, yeah.
Right, okay. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Josh, for your hard work, and also, you know, we want you to be diligent too in your travels around the county. You know, if you see a spot that's hot, you know, I mean, just make sure we get it. That's one thing we've got here in the county is review, and we want to make sure it's taken care of.
Right.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Okay, next thing is on the agenda is solid waste. Gary Collinsworth.
Good evening. The trash collected for the month of April was 1,304.51 tons. The tires collected was 12.07 tons. In comparison to April of 2014, we received 81 tons more garbage and 14.3 tons less tires for the month. We've been working on the building at Thomas Walker Pool in preparation for installing a new guttering and roof on the existing buildings. We've been working also on the diving board and the platform in which it attaches. It was deteriorated under the diving board. We've been building a metal plate to attach to the surface around the diving board to give some more support and have a little bit better stability on the diving board, hopefully to eliminate any future problems. And that should be ready by the time pool season opens. We will be doing some work on existing pumps and several fittings that were leaking at the end of last year's season. The fittings have been picked up and we're waiting on the hoses. I had to special order those and we're waiting on those to come in, and then we'll be able to get those repairs done once they come in. We've moved a couple of the new dumpsters around to different sites. We've taken some, replaced to some of those unfenced sites. Some of the dumpsters that we were replacing at the unfenced sites will be removed from service, and others will be repaired. We will continue to do these at several of the locations. Some of the locations in the past few weeks, we're having dumpsters being burned again. That's being a hot topic at Hurricane Bridge and Olinger. Hurricane Bridge, we had in 8 days, I think we had five nights it was burnt. So the heat generated inside these dumpsters when they're on fire, it destroys them. Their expected lifespan increases the need for new dumpsters. So we really need to try to find a way to catch these people, but at the unfenced sites, unfortunately, we have no way to put any cameras up. We don't have any way to really monitor it other than going to different times, you know, to clean up at those unfenced sites.
There's no where we can put a camera down there, Gary, at all.
Do what?
Nowhere we can put a camera at all.
I mean, there's.
It's a cliff on one side and the river on the other. It's difficult. We talked about this one the other day. I'm gonna get with the fire department because one of their reps here in Jonesville called me, and I'm gonna get back with him. Gary didn't have exact times. I want him to give me some exact times, and then I'm gonna get with 911 and do a little research on the calls, where they're coming from, things of that nature, to see if we can find any common threads there.
Well, that's $1,200 a pop, ain't it?
Well, one fire doesn't destroy the dumpster, but repeated
Well, it starts
fires, it
deterioration,
weakens that metal, and they won't last.
Yeah, once paint goes off and they start rusting, and then the corners and
It's just a matter of time, we're
yeah.
done.
I mean,
Only about 1,500, they say.
Nine.
no, yeah, about 9.
That's a lot of money. $1,000 a piece throw away.
Yeah,
It's taxpayer money too.
right. Our mowing is on schedule at all the locations. A few of the convenience center sites, the voting properties, the outdoor classroom, the transfer station, and around the terminal building at the airport are being mowed every 2 weeks. Along the runway and around the lights at the airport, we're mowing those more often. And at this time, we're actually on a 2-week schedule on the runway lights. We're mowing it with the new mower, just within the lights itself. And the rest of the property at the airport will be mowed as it has been in the past. As of right now, also the old Ewing School property, the front bank, we're kind of on a 2-week schedule right now. As things kind of pick up, that'll kind of come away a little bit as a 2-week schedule. I'll kind of spread that out when we get a little thin out on projects. But at this time, we're trying to keep it on a 2-week schedule. We started mowing the old landfill properties, and they will be finished in the next couple weeks for the first time. We're also having some bear problems at several locations, Keoki and 606. They're getting in around the dumpsters, pulling garbage out onto the ground. They're coming up to people in their vehicles. People are feeding them. They're getting pretty brave with it. And this is extremely dangerous, feeding them. They expect it. And I mean, there's even pictures being posted of kids, they're putting kids up next to them and taking pictures of them. And that's not encouraged in any way by any of us, but I mean, there's not a whole lot we can do, if we're not there.
I did request that he get some signs made and put at those 2 sites, just as a protection, liability protection for the county, to make people aware that bears may be present. And if it gets down in that can, you don't see it till it comes up out of there. And so but we do have problems. Major Woodard called me Tuesday night. He didn't put his trash out that night because there was one there, but there were people coming in and feeding it, throwing candy bars out, things like that. So we've made initial contact with the state again. The gentleman who used to be the wildlife biologist for the region has retired. So I've got to make contact with a couple of different people. They came in 5, 6, 7 years ago and tranquilized one at the 606 site because it became the favorite viewing area for several people every night, and it was getting to really be a hazardous situation. So they came in, tranquilized, and relocated that one. Now, the ones at Keoki, I'm afraid there's too many bears up there, I think, for us to be able to tranquilize and relocate. I think they'll just keep coming back in because it's not just a single bear up there. I think we've just got one right now, maybe at 606, but that took care of the problem before. But
Actually, I found out today there's a male and then there's a female with 3 cubs.
Oh, okay. At 606?
I didn't realize they had 3 cubs there, but
maybe
that's really dangerous.
More of a problem than what we'd anticipated. And the state can't guarantee that they've only got, I think, one guy that does this. So we'll have to get on the list and see if we can do something about it.
The upcoming projects that we have, we've still got some drainage issues around the landfill that we tried to do last year. The weather didn't cooperate once we got the time frame to do it with some other projects that we were doing. Then the weather hindered us from doing those. It's starting to get pretty dry right now. Not quite dry enough there to do it, but once we get to that point, maybe we can knock that project out, and that's going to be just depending on how the weather continues to play out. We got some fence repair to do at some of the convenience centers. We got St. Charles, Keoki, Blackwater, Rose Hill. We need to do some at Ben-Hur as well at the gates. We had somebody to slide and run through one of the gate posts at Ben-Hur. We've kind of got it straight to where we can shut it, but it needs some other work. we're gonna have to work on the operator station at the scales for the new location. And then we've got several other small projects that's just too numerous to list, but there's several others to go. So, that's all I have.
Mr. Crabtree?
I have none.
Mr. Mosley?
I don't have anything, Gary. I appreciate all that you do, and I know you've got plenty to do. Not enough people to do it with, but you do a good job. Actually, Mr. Poe volunteered you for some more work today.
Very temporary, just maybe a week or two at the most, and that's only if it's has to do.
But,
Thank you, Gary.
Mr. Linton? Ms. Rupp?
Thank you.
Thank you for everything, Gary. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you a lot. Thanks. Animal Control, David Middleton.
Good evening. The County Animal Control for April, we received 222 calls at the pound, 66 from the Sheriff's Office, for a total of 288 calls. We picked up 64 dogs last month, 3 horses, which were surrendered to the county. We're trying to find places for them right now. 26 dogs were strays, 34 of them surrendered, 4 were seized. 6 were reclaimed for the month, 5 were adopted. 50 of them were transferred to the rescue. 2 were carryovers, were at the pound at the first of the month, and 1 was euthanized. We had 22 summonses issued and $1,400 worth of fines and restitution. That's all I've got.
Mr. Crabtree?
thank you.
Mr. Mosley?
David, I appreciate the job you and your co-worker does. I know you've got a whole lot to take care of, and people just don't realize
Right.
how many calls, like 288. That's quite a few in a month, and I know you guys stay busy all the time, and I do appreciate what you do.
Mr. Linton?
Has the rabies clinic been successful this year?
It has done quite well. We, of course, join with the hospital, and we've been out selling county tags and kind of watching what's going on. We've sold about somewhere in the neighborhood of $600 so far. We got one more Saturday to go. So, I think last month or last Saturday we sold somewhere in the neighborhood of 90 tags. And that's only like 1% of what we should be touching, but that's 1% that we haven't been getting. So,
Ms. Rupp?
Do you have a lot of problems with vicious dogs or biting dogs, and how do you handle that?
we do at times. It seems like it takes its spells. You may go a couple months and not have one, and all of a sudden you'll have 5 or 6. The biggest thing about handling a dangerous dog is every circumstance is different. When you've got a dog that's running loose and attacking, it's got to be removed immediately. So we go out and we catch that animal. We take it to the pound. If we find an owner for that animal, typically we go to the magistrate, we get a dangerous dog summons issued, and we bring them to court, especially if we have a human that's been bitten. It's almost a gimme. We have to, because one of our goals is to protect the citizens of Lee County from that type of attack. And yeah, it's an important part of our job is processing those animals and doing it quickly and properly.
Now, I imagine that would be hard and difficult and different in every situation. You've got an animal that probably, the owner loves it, and then all of a sudden it's taken away. Maybe somebody was doing something to it, or, and in that situation, that owner may not ever get that dog back. And
That's true.
That's unfortunate, and I think a lot of people don't understand, the reality of what your job is and what you're trying to do. And it's not to keep those dogs away from their owners. We're just trying to obey the laws.
Right.
And I'm sure you know what those are a lot more than I do, or maybe anybody else. But I think it would be good if I don't know how you educate the public about that kind of situation?
You know, it's really difficult because no circumstance from one case to the next are alike. I recall one that we just recently had in Stone Creek, and he was very upset. However, we could not prove that anybody had taunted the dog or bothered that animal to create that problem. It's in a parking lot at a store across the road, so it's not detained in any manner. It's not on his property, and the information I get puts the dog there when it bites.
Yeah.
There's no other avenue for that dog.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And-
You don't know what, every situation is different.
They are,
And
they are.
trying to figure it out, we can't choose sides. You have to obey the law and do what the books say to do.
You do.
And that's all that we're trying to do. And I'm-
Unfortunately, with this one, this man was a senior citizen, and I know you got acquainted with him somewhat. He was very upset, and I'd be a monster if I didn't say it bothered me too, because I didn't want to take the man's dog. But unfortunately, that's my job. That's what I have to do when this occurs. We've had people who are trespassing. They go on somebody's property. Well, for one instance, the lady got arrested for trespassing. The dog was left alone. I mean, it bit her, but she had no business being there. A lot of these attacks can be prevented if people keep their dogs confined or at home. When they turn them loose and allow people contact with them, that's where you run into your problem. And that's the biggest point in educating people.
Right.
Most people in Lee County, when you meet them, they say, I wouldn't have a dog if I had tied. I understand what their feeling is. They want to be able to run and enjoy life. But when it conflicts with other human beings, then that's where we have to come in and do our job. And no, it's not pleasant sometimes. They're upset, they're taking it out on us. We didn't bite people, the dog did. But we take the brunt of it. So, but that's what we're here for.
Well, I appreciate you coming here tonight and telling us this situation and then trying to inform everyone, of how you handle things, and I appreciate that.
We had talked about at one time, me and the other officer, and we may have mentioned it to Mr. Poe, we need to be able to go to the paper, I guess, and maybe put some regulations in the paper on a monthly basis, maybe just one law or something, and try to explain it and help educate the public. Because when people learn through the education they get, they're not as apt to get themselves in that situation. And, we're not out here to attack the public. We're out here to protect them and to help them. And that's been a goal of mine ever since I started, was to educate, not through the court system, but by talking to them about the laws and showing them that this is what can happen if you don't follow it. And so right now, that's the only avenue we've got. Another question is just like the 3 horses we have. The county has 3 horses in our custody. They're on the farm where they've always been. But I had purchased feed, been going over and feeding them, and the owner had surrendered them to the county. We didn't seize them, but that would have been inevitable if they hadn't surrendered them. That saved them a lot of money and aggravation in court. Saved us a lot of time in court. But we have 3 horses that we need to move, and they're free to somebody. If you know anybody that's interested,
Is that something you're gonna
I'd like to put that in the
advertise?
paper.
Well, and another thing is, what about having a social media website, for animal control, and then this could be something you could put out there?
We are kind of working on that right now, having it on the county website that shows all the dogs and
Okay.
animals that we have, the pictures of them,
Right.
the dates and times they come in, and it's going to be available. It's not ready yet. I talked to Rex the other day, and he said it's going to take a little while yet, but they're working on that for us,
Okay.
and we will have that available.
Okay. All right, thank you.
David, I'd just like to say thank you for all your hard work. I know it's tough out there. When you show up somewhere, it's never pleasant, so.
It's not always my fault either.
Yeah, no, it's not always.
It's
I mean,
not.
it's a bad situation when you have to go and, I know we do appreciate your work, and I mean, that's a lot of calls to answer in a month.
For two people. And,
For two people, it's
you know,
hard.
what people don't realize is the two people, we've got 400 plus square miles in Lee County, and you may have two calls that's 70 miles away, you know, apart, and you've got to get both of them the same day. And sometimes it can be because we rotate our days. Sometimes we're 3 days in a row by ourselves, and you're trying to cover one end of the county. I did it today. I had a call in Gibson Station and one in Olinger. I mean, you're talking about going one way for 30 minutes and back the other way for 45 or 50, you know. So it takes a lot of time, and that's not counting sometimes, you know, when you get there in the confrontation, it takes an hour or 2 hours sometimes to get to the bottom of what's going on in a situation. It does take time. And, you know, we take care of the pound. We don't have workers in there doing it for us. So we feed, we clean, we water. Anything needs done, we take it to the vet or what have you. We do it all. And so it's not always the simplest thing to get accomplished, what we have to in a day. But I do appreciate your
But, yeah, thank you, and keep pushing Rex, make sure we get that website done, okay?
I talked to him just the day before yesterday, I believe it was. He said it'd be a few days yet, so.
Thank you, David.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is constitutional officers report, treasurer. Anybody got any questions? If not, we'll move on to public expression. Anybody here wish to address the board? If not, this time we'll close the floor for public expression. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes, April 21st, 2015, regular meeting.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, motion, I hear a second.
I'll second.
Motion second, any questions? All in favor, aye? Okay. Approval of disbursements.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to hear second. Is that to pay the bills too, Mr. Moses?
Yes.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Next item on the agenda is delegation, Dr. Scott Hamilton, Mountain Empire Community College.
Have a little handout for you here. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to come down and give you an update for the spring semester 2015. As usual, I give you a quick update on our enrollment, how that's looking. When I was here in the fall, we were down quite a bit, and I'm glad to say that that has turned around over the spring semester. In fact, quite remarkably. At the end of the fall semester, Mountain Empire was down 9.3% in enrollment compared to the previous fall semester. And then, so we started spring semester 9.3% fewer students than we had, or FTE than we had the previous year. But we finished up the semester, spring semester, just 2.14% down. And when the state average was 3.57% down. So we did better than the state average for spring semester, and that's starting from 9.3% deficit. So what happened was our faculty and staff went to work. I know at the spring semester, start of the spring semester, there were about 500 students that had not re-registered for spring semester, and everybody started working on making phone calls and talking to people and finding out, and we got all but 40 of them back. And that had a lot to do with our spring enrollment coming up pretty strong. So I think we've got to give credit to the academic faculty and the student services staff for all the hard work that they did to try to stop the loss of students that we've been experiencing. So that's some good news. Right now, summer term, it's pretty early. We're just in the early part of enrollment, but we're already at about 60% of where we were this time last year. So, or this, at the end of the term last year. That's the latest report I got. I don't know why the state changed the report, but they compared where we are right now with where we were at the end of the summer last year, and we've already hit the 60% mark. We haven't even started the semester yet. So I think we're doing okay. Fall term, we're up a little bit from where we were at this time last year. So we'll see what happens, but that's a long way off. So. If you consider the other colleges in Southwest Virginia, the way they ended up the spring semester, Southwest had a good semester and they're up 6%. Virginia Highlands is right at even, not quite 1%. And Wytheville is down almost 7%. So, and there's a lot of other colleges around the state down 10%, 8%, 7%. So I think relatively speaking, Mountain Empire had a pretty good spring semester in terms of enrollment. The handout I gave you is just an example of some information that we've been providing to people. As I've mentioned in the past, we're very committed to being a supporter of economic development in our region. And we do that by providing type of career training for students that will help them get good jobs and hopefully provide the trained workforce that employers are looking for when they come to our region. We do that in a number of ways, and on the front page of this handout where it says Career Start Here, I talk about the Small Business Development Center for a moment. That helps get small businesses started, gives them a place to do it over in the Duffield Pioneer Center, and helps them get started and get up and going, and hopefully we can kind of grow our own there and get some businesses started that will employ people in the future. We also provide customized training to businesses throughout the district. In fact, we served about 4,000 people last year through our customized workforce training division, where we do custom training and we do mine retraining. We do all kinds of specific industry type training for different businesses and industries around the region. So we're going to continue to do that, and we have been meeting with employers that are interested in our region through economic development agencies. They invite us to come down and tell them what Mountain Empire can do to help entice them to come here and assure them that we'll provide that training if they do come. And we're keeping our fingers crossed that that's going to bring some positive results here in the near future. And the other page kind of gives you an idea of some of the technical careers available at the college and kind of give the students an idea of what they can make when they get out of there and get that degree and start working in that industry. We work closely with Eastman and have partnerships with them. We have internships down at the plant for our students that are in our electrical mechanical program, and we meet with them on a regular basis throughout the year. Representatives came up in the fall, delivered a $10,000 check to Mountain Empire, and during that meeting they said, you know, we really need chemical process operators in our plant, lots of them, and they're hard to find, and we need qualified employees. Would you consider starting up a program? So Mountain Empire staff went to work, contacted Northeast Tennessee State, who has that program right there in Kingsport, and they were very helpful because they know Eastman needs more than they can even produce. So that program will be starting hopefully in the fall if we can get everything approved, and there'll be a new program, chemical process operator, which will lead directly to possible employment down at Eastman. Of course, that depends on the individual, but those are very good paying jobs. You can start right out in the 40,000 range, right out of school with 1-year certificate. So that's a new program that's been developed, and we're going to start offering very soon, hopefully in the fall. That's about all I have to report this evening. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
No, I just appreciate Mountain Empire and what it's done. I'm a product of it. And further went on and finished up my 4-year degree, so it's a very good investment for the money that it costs comparing to the same 2 years at a 4-year institution. And I have a nephew that graduated with an electromechanical degree here recently. And so it's a good place and good things happen there, so thank you.
Well, the dual enrollment's an even better deal. And we're trying to expand dual enrollment in Lee County. We're not getting as many as we think we could. Working with the schools there, I made visits to all the vocational centers this spring and visited your vocational center up here at Lehigh, and encourage them to work with us to develop some more dual enrollment than we already have through our vocational centers. But we have a number of students who are, well, we have one student right now who's going to graduate tomorrow night from Central High School with her associate's degree before she actually graduates from high school. And she was selected as an All-American, Virginia All-American Scholar, and couldn't receive the award up in Richmond because she was on her senior class trip. So she was the only dual enrollment student in the state that won that award. So dual enrollment's a good deal for the students and for the family. When you look at the costs, it's even better than going straight through. So.
I had a conversation, Dr. Hamilton, with Mr. Welch at the vocational school after you visited, and we were trying to find ways to get some money to help some of these students that cannot afford it.
Very tough.
And you may not be aware of this yet, but we're going to have a meeting sometime later this month, and you're invited down. I've got Darrell Blankenship. You know Darrell?
Yeah.
He's going to come down, and unfortunately, here's what happened. With some of this money, that it used to be that you spent 70% of it on in school or something like that. Well, this past year, they changed the rules. It's flipping. It's 70% out of school, 30% in school. But we got some carryover funds there that we can apply to this. You know, and it's not fair to these children that some of them that can't afford it to sit there and take the same class and not get credit for it, college credit. And I think the more children that you can get, you know, when they got those college credits coming out of high school, I think it's an incentive to go on and finish and get that, you know, at least their 2-year degree. And once they get that, they may want to go on, or, you know, in some of this vocational education, which I think is very important to our area here, that it'll be great. And I'm looking forward to having that meeting, and I hope that we can help with that.
Well, I'm going to, you said later this month, I'm getting ready to take some vacation time, so if I'm not available, I will have our people down there.
Well, it may be 1st June. Darrell put me off first part of May. He said he's working on some project, and I think he had a deadline he had to meet, so, but we will get together.
I'll be happy to, and if I can't be there, we'll have somebody there representing college.
But we are working on that.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Mr. Lane? Mr. Rupp? You know, this is something that's interesting here, the water wastewater treatment operator. Before it was just online. Is there actually classes now that they can go? Because we've had at our local PSA, we've had a time trying to get licensed operators. I was just wondering if you know, when you all go to the schools and stuff, do you all present stuff like this to these kids? I mean,
our recruiters make them aware of all the programs we have available. But that program is pretty much online, because we offer that statewide. In fact, we offer that nationwide, and we even have people that take that class from overseas.
Right. I know, you know, we encourage, it got to the point where, you know, we were having to get part-time help from people that already retired, even out of Wise County, because certification, you got to have it, you know, to operate these plants. And that was one thing one policy we changed at the PSA. From now on, when we hire you, it's mandatory, you know, that you have to enroll in these classes. Okay. You know, just to make sure. But and even this salary right here is it's really not accurate. It's actually more than that. I know y'all probably done some work on it, but I know what it costs us to get certified water and sewer treatment operators. And that number is quite a bit. It's significantly higher than that. And that's a good opportunity, you know, for somebody, you know, they can work in the field for a year and then apply for these classes. And then in another year, you know, they're certified in water and wastewater. And most of them's between $17 and $25 an hour, you know, depending. And you know, you're required by the state to have so many of these people. And I just think, you know, and that's one thing that, you know, I think we've lost focus of in this area is, you know, what are we educating the kids for? And, you know, you've got a certain percentage, 15% that's going to go on to college anyway, but you know, with the dual enrollment credits and stuff like that, if these kids can see that in a year, they can actually be making a decent wage, I think it gives them hope. And, you know, I mean, and I mean, this is great. And all of our people we hire at the PSA goes through Mountain Empire now.
Good.
And I think that's one great program, because every county, you have to have this.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice.
Those figures come from the Virginia labor market information, so they're not local.
Yeah, I know what we're having to pay local. It's quite a bit higher than that.
You must have a hard time getting people come.
Well, you do, especially for
Yeah.
lights and water and sewer.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I think it's probably going to be upwards to 35,000 starting out. And you know, if you can go to school, or not even really go to school, but just go online for a year, and have a, you know, it's a good future for kids that don't want to go to a 4-year school.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
so I know I just think that's just really good. But I just
Well, the fastest growing, highest paying occupations in the United States, and this has been true for the last 5 to 10 years, don't require a 4-year baccalaureate degree. They require a 2-year associate's degree or a technical certificate.
yeah, and that's
So,
wonderful. Like I
You
said,
need to
a
get
lot-
that word out to people, because,
Well, a lot of kids will go a year.
yeah,
You know, a lot of kids don't want to go 4-year, but you know, if you can show a kid that can make $40,000 a year starting out, you know, then you can work your way up. I mean, that's you know, for our area, that's pretty good. That's strong.
yeah.
Thank you for all y'all do. We really appreciate y'all.
Well, thank you for your support here.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is finance monthly appropriations.
Make a motion, we approve monthly appropriation 15-011, Lee County Public Schools.
Okay, got a motion on the floor here, a second.
I'll second it.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. That's it, then, Mr. Poe.
Yeah, it's all under finance.
Okay, next item on the agenda is board appointments. Make a motion we table this appointment.
There's actually 2 there under IDA.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I make a motion, we reappoint Chad Hines to the IDA board.
Okay, got a motion to hear a second?
Mr. Paul, how many members are on this board? 7?
7.
Do you know the breakdown right now of the current members?
I don't have.
I mean, as far as what district?
I don't have a full list with me. Let me think just a minute. I about have to write them down. I'm not sure I can remember them all.
There's 2 districts seems to always have 2, and then the
I'm
other.
one short. Let's see.
I've got one.
What?
I don't know.
Where does AJ live now? I'm lost on that line.
He's
Tina.
East Pennington, yeah.
He in 5.
I think so.
Mhm.
Okay. And is Charlie in 5?
3.
3, okay. Okay, so that moves, let's see, okay, Greg's in 5, Charlie's in 3. I've got Edna, Chad, AJ, Charlie, Liz, Greg. Who's my other one?
Paul.
Paul, okay.
So you got, what, 2 and 5?
Right now, there is 1 from District 1, 1 from District 2, 2 in District 3, 1 in District 4, 2 in District 5.
Is there a reason behind that? I've never even asked that question.
No,
I had one in my district until they did the rezoning,
yeah,
redistricting.
right. Yeah, the redistricting actually moved Mr. Hines out of District 2 into District 3. But it's varied over time, but where there's 7 members instead of 5, there's always going to be a multiple from it, you know, at least one district or possibly 2.
Well, then on the planning commission, what, there's 7 or?
No, the planning commission only has 5. There's one,
But one-
most of the boards have 5, but IDAs are a little bit different.
Which one of them is planning has to be also a member of a zoning
No,
board?
Board of Zoning Appeals, there's a statement in there that one of the members may be a member of the planning commission. It is not a requirement. We have typically had that for as long as I can remember. One member of the planning commission is usually on Board of Zoning Appeals. But it's not a mandate, but it is an option.
That answers your question, Mr. Crabtree.
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Okay,
President.
got a motion on the floor to hear a second. Okay, I'll second that motion. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carried. Next item is emergency management coordinator.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Mr. Bailey back in that position, Alan Bailey.
Okay, got a motion on the floor to hear a second.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, aye? Opposed? Okay, resolutions of support PSA project bonds.
You've got copies of 3 resolutions of support. The PSA is getting busy here. They've stacked all this up at one time. Usually we see these projects one at a time, but they've got 3 of them ready to go at
Well,
the same
believe it or
time.
not, we've tried funding forever, and finally, they all come together at one time, so.
But there's three separate projects here, and there's a separate resolution of support for each one. I did not include the full financing agreement because it's 40-some pages long. I only put one in there for you to review. They're all identical. But this is for the first project is for the Frog Level and Chancey's Branch Water Project, funding of $1,061,572. They're getting some emergency generators for the water system at a cost of $75,000. That's the second project. And the third project is the Thompson Settlement Water Project at a cost of $837,845. They require a resolution of support from the local, not for the local, well, either way, for or from the local governing body. This is not a pledge of funding, but, and it's not a legal obligation. They typically call these moral obligations. It does state in the agreements, in the support resolution, that should the PSA be unable to make their annual payment on the note, then the Board of Supervisors would appropriate sufficient funds to do so. But that's handled on a year-to-year basis. These are typical and required of most PSA finance projects.
Okay, Mr. Poe, go ahead.
Are the resolution numbers contiguous?
13 and 14.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. Okay, I make a motion that we approve resolutions 15-12, 13, 14.
Okay, got a motion on the floor here, second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, consultant CPA services RFP.
The deadline for receipt of proposals for consulting CPA services was the 29th of April. We had placed ads in the local Powell Valley News and the Kingsport Times News. We only received one response back. This was from Hickok, Fern and Company in Abingdon, who currently has provided these services to the county for about seven or 8 years now. They also provide similar services to several other counties, towns, and authorities in the region. I distributed copies, or we mailed copies of these out from the office to each of you to review, but with no other proposer for the services, I would recommend award of a 3-year contract for the services with the option to renew for 2 successive one-year periods. State procurement allows you to provide up to a 5-year contract. You can go 3 years, and then if you want to renew and you can agree on terms, you can agree for 2 one-year terms in addition to that. The cost of the services has typically been just under $20,000 a year to have everything prepared.
And I know that right after this, Mr. Poe, we talked about the proposals for auditing services. Does consulting service, do they go hand in hand, or kind of how does that?
Well, previously, at the end of the year, the auditor would come in, several years ago, the auditor would come in at the end of the year. They would basically close the books, make adjusting entries, do whatever it takes to get everything to basically prepare your financial statements and then complete their audit. After the Enron issues and scandal several years ago, they changed accounting standards, and auditors now, they are not allowed to come in and make those adjusting entries, because when they do the audit, they're basically auditing their own work. And so they draw a very fine line there between what they can and can't do as they're preparing the audit. So we then began to employ an outside agency to come in and do the closeout of the books. A lot of the work is very similar. It's not complete, but we basically go through 2 audits in a year, one from the consulting firm who comes in to close things out, but that brings all the records together. They actually make all the adjusting entries, close the books, and prepare the financial statements. Then the auditor comes in behind that and actually prepares the audit. And in doing that, they're both checking a lot of the same records. They're pulling things at random, and the work of the consulting CPA firm is not so much a random act like the auditor would do. They're having to pull documents from actual transactions to make sure it was recorded properly.
Yeah.
It could have been done the other way just as easily, as long as everyone's honest and as long as you're not hiding facts and figures. We don't close our own books and make our own adjusting entries, so we were not cooking the books, as you would say, in the Enron situation, and inflating things and then turning over to the auditors and providing false substantiation for that. So it makes no difference that much really in the finished product that we have. It just added about $20,000 extra cost to our bottom line every year. But it's a standard, it's a federal standard or an accounting standard that has to be met.
I just want to make sure. Kind of thought that's what it was, but I wanted to hear it from.
This 3-year contract with the option to renew, is that like 5 years or
Yes, it means you have the option to go a total of 5 years at a time.
negotiated price?
Yes.
All right.
Most big companies, corporations, they have what they call a accounting committee that prepares the financial statements in-house for the corporation. And then the auditors come in and they audit the prepared financial statements. Since the county doesn't have a qualified staff of accountants to prepare the financial statements, then there have to be financial statements prepared in accordance with governmental accounting standards. So this is what these people do. They prepare the financial statements in accordance with federal and state and governmental accounting standards, so that the auditor can come in and audit a set of books that have been prepared for them. And the firm that we've used, Hickok Fern and Company, prior to this, they did a lot of audits. But when they changed the standards, they looked at things and they felt like this was a better niche for them, that this was a better type of, more suited for their firm. And so that's why they chose to go this route. They backed away from doing audits primarily. They do more of the consulting work now. This is a whole lot more fun and a lot less liability.
True.
So did the cost of the audit go down $20,000?
No, the auditor is still doing the same work. They just they're not having to do the closing entries and everything. But unfortunately, no, costs like that. Professional services costs are not going down. And when I talked to the auditor about that, that's one of the first things I brought up with Corbin, who's the managing principal in the Blacksburg office. And we went through the whole process, and the cost of them hiring, or their entry salaries for entry-level staff accountants now for auditing work and government work is much higher than it used to be, and has been a greater demand for that. And also, he pointed out that as in some other professional sectors, the educational path on that is more of a 5-year program now than a 4-year. It's still listed as a 4-year program in most colleges, but he said when you look at most of the people that are graduating, many of them are spending 5 years to get their degrees by the time they get out. So they've got more time and money invested in their educational costs, and so they're looking for a bigger payback when they come out.
It's always been a 5 or 6 year process.
But unfortunately, no, the audit cost did not come down. That's why I say it basically just added about $20,000 extra to our cost to get everything done.
Okay, I need a motion for consulting CPA services.
I make a motion as we hire and come.
Okay, got a motion to hear a second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next item on the agenda is auditing services, RFP.
Auditing services, the RFPs were due on April 30th. Again, ads were placed the same as the others. We received 2 proposals, one from Robinson Farmer Cox Associates of Blacksburg, who is our current firm, and Rodifer Moss and Company, PLLC of Kingsport. These are actually the same 2 firms who submitted 3 years ago when we went out for proposals. I just made a note there, and I think you would see this when you reviewed, and same thing we saw the last time. Robinson Farmer Cox has extensive governmental auditing experience in Virginia. This is their primary service. They don't do corporate accounting work. They specialize in government work. Rodifer Moss and Company has limited governmental auditing experience in Virginia. The only reference I saw dealing with a Virginia entity was the town of Gate City, and they did not list any references as clients as counties in their client list in Virginia or Tennessee. They showed several authorities, utility districts, and things of that nature. But I would recommend that this be taken up further in closed session.
Okay, next item is Rose Hill Library roof.
We were notified by the regional library system in late March that the library down at Rose Hill had sustained some roof damage due to the winter storm events. I went down to the site. I noted that it appeared there was some damage it appeared from the ground to be missing shingles or some broken tabs. I had asked Gary Collinsworth to take a closer look at it when they had time, and he advised that the damage itself was not that bad, but the roof in general is not in good condition. The shingles, and I brought a visual for you tonight if you want to pass this across. The shingles are very thin that are on there. That's one of the broken tabs that came off. And he's afraid that if there's not that many areas that the tabs are broken, but he's afraid that the areas, if they do get up there and try to lift shingles to repair them, they'll disintegrate with that thickness of shingle, and they'll end up with more damage by trying to repair it than what we've got already. And we don't have any leaks reported, but there were several tabs that were broken off, and you can tell from the ground. You can see there's several broken, and there's some issues. So at this point, I think it might be better off. We wouldn't have to do it immediately, but I think maybe we'd probably work through the summer. If they don't have any, leaks that pop up, and I don't think they will unless we have some high winds, we could probably maybe advertise this mid-summer and try to schedule it as we move into a little bit cooler weather in the fall, which would be a little bit better weather for roofing. But that would be my recommendation, to just re-roof the entire thing.
With what type roof?
That's up to the board, whatever you want to do.
How many square feet we talking?
Ain't that much.
No, that addition was about as big as the building itself, but I don't know what, I don't have the measurements on the building.
You can put that for bid on C, right?
Yeah, we could check, we could try, we could put bids out for both, for shingle and specify, a better quality shingle than what's on it, or metal, and see what the comparison is.
Not about a metal roof in the library, it's supposed to be quiet.
Yeah, true, so shingles might be better off in the long run.
That's what I was thinking, that's the reason I asked.
Unless we want to go with thatch.
How much?
Slate.
But I mean, metal roofs are allowed. I mean,
Yeah, they are.
even with a lot of insulation, you still hear it, a lot more than you will through a shingle.
Well, we can just put it out to bid and see what we got.
Okay, we'll be working on that through the summer then to get that one ready instead of pushing it out right away. I do have,
Reports and recommendations of the county administrator.
do have some other items. First item is the secondary 6-year road plan that we just held a public hearing. There's a resolution that needs to be adopted by the board that simply states that you did hold the public hearing, and if you are in agreement with the construction program that was presented and the construction budget for this next fiscal year, then that resolution 15-016, it would be in order to adopt that.
I make a motion we approve resolution 15-016.
I'll second your motion.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? Ayes, carried.
The next item, at the last meeting, the board requested that we get pricing on the metal roof, replacement metal for roofing, re-roofing the Thomas Walker pool bathhouse. We went ahead in the process. The pump house is a much smaller building, but we went ahead and priced metal for that as well. And we priced it as both with just materials, and I think Mr. Bailey had mentioned that transfer station staff might be able to replace that, but you've heard his schedule tonight in projects he's got planned. So we went ahead and priced labor to have it installed as well.
What are you doing in the evenings?
I'm not a roofer, I'll tell you
Well,
that. When you put that, you want to put that right.
Mr. Crabtree can get that done.
Well, we might have to. Give us some extra time though, trust me. No, I did. I actually talked to Gary about this today even. And he was, of course, their mowing has kicked in. He also advised they have at least one employee scheduled off for vacation from now till mid-July. And that's with no other, medical appointments or anything else that anybody has to be off for. That's just scheduled vacations. So we did go ahead and get prices both ways. We got 2 quotes, one from Ledford Construction, and I've got it broken down there, the bathhouse and the pump house, materials cost, labor cost, and total. And then Tri-State exterior metal roofing, the same thing there. So I've got those numbers there for you to compare. They've done they've replaced the fascia board, but he's not put the guttering back up yet. They've held off because when I told him to get pricing on the metal, he didn't want to put guttering up and then go in there with metal roofing and tear up the gutters. So he's just held off on putting them up.
A lot different than the price on the labor there.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to step out and abstain.
Okay. It's about $900 cheaper. Said this budget coming up, we're going to continue to look like a wagon wheel.
Yeah, actually, the materials costs are fairly close. Tri-State was about $90 cheaper on materials only, but when we got into labor, their cost for labor for install was a lot higher.
I'll make a motion we approve Ledford Construction for $33,3253, which is low bid.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion?
This is for materials and installation.
Material and installation.
All right.
That's for the total. Any
So-
discussion?
So we're not gonna go with cheaper materials.
That is.
I mean, they bid it material only and labor only, right?
Well, they give you the price in a combined bid, basically. We had to break it out, material, because at the time, we didn't know if we were gonna do it in-house or if we were gonna hire them to do the installation. Now, whether either contractor would do the labor if you bought the material somewhere else, I can't speak to that. I don't know. We didn't ask them to price just labor to install a roof if we bought the material somewhere else.
Is there, in our contracts, I mean, is there a, you know, a overage or change order thing? I mean, if something happens, they find something that bad
Gary,
plywood or,
well, our plan is to install it over top of the shingles, not to remove the old shingles, but to install it right over top of them.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
We vote.
not yet. We do have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes, carry. Ask Ms. Rowland to come back in now to Mr. Pope.
What you do?
She abstained from
What?
That's her husband's company.
Another item is GeoLinks, GIS, and MSAG, which stands for Master Street Addressing Guide, support, software support renewal. This is in the 911 department. Geocom, we have our mapping program in 911 is a Geocom product. It was purchased through the regional cooperative group, Lee, Wise, Norton, Dickinson, through grant funds from the state, and the software support on the mapping is covered under the grant. But some of the tools that are used for actually addressing is not covered under that. So we have to carry the software support for that. Our renewal came up actually April 1st. There were some issues on getting pricing and getting everything together, so Mr. Bailey got me this last week, late last week. They have priced the support services for a 12-month period, which would end March 31st of 2016 at $3,500. That would be for one full year of support service. They've also priced it for 33 months of coverage through December 31st, 2017. And the reason that date was selected is that's when the maintenance on the mapping support runs out through the grant. So that gets all of our mapping software services ending at the same date. So if then at that point we would be looking at renewal, it would be renewing all of them together instead of having them hodgepodge coming in at different times. The cost is exactly the same on if you divide 3,500 by 12 months and multiply it by 33, you'll see that it comes out to $9,625. The only advantage to doing the 33-month contract and prepaying it now, because this is paid in advance, is that in 12 months they may increase the cost for annual support. We have no guarantee that they won't. We don't have any notes, there's no stated intent that they will, but typically that's what does happen. So that's why they've generated a cost to go all the way out through 2017. Just need to know what the board's
You're locked down for 33 months.
You're locked down for 33 months. They can't go up, or you give them the option to go up in a year.
Right.
What's 33 to 36?
That's because December 31st of 2017 is when our mapping software support services end. That's what they're currently under contract for.
Oh, okay.
So that brings all of the mapping tool services into one date rather than having them expire at different times throughout the year.
Uniformity.
Yes. Yes.
I make a motion that we go with the 33 months of support, so in case the price increases.
Okay, got a motion there, second?
We pay this over the 3-year
We
period?
pay it in upfront.
Upfront.
We pay it in lump sum.
Oh.
Either way, you pay in lump sum.
Hmm.
Well,
Either pay now or pay later. Well, later you may not get that same rate.
We're getting 0.25% on investment money right now.
no.
That's good.
Well, that's the high.
Better than zero, isn't it?
But negative.
I second that motion.
Okay, got a motion and second. Are you still okay with that, Ms. Reed?
That's fine.
Okay, got a motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's carried.
Okay. Have you got another one for me, or am I winging it? Oh, yes. Tuesday night at our budget work session, Mr. Mosley brought up the issue about elk. Actually, I went back and actually the board has adopted resolutions opposing elk restoration twice in the past already. And so I referenced both of those in this resolution, whereas the counties of Buchanan, Dickinson, Lee, Russell, Scott, Tazewell, and Wise were approached in July 2009 regarding the possible restoration of elk in Southwest Virginia, and the Board of Supervisors of Lee County on September 15, 2009, and again on July 19, 2010, voted unanimously to oppose these efforts. Also, this decision was based on concerns for potential damages, agricultural crops, vehicle collisions, increased potential for spread of disease to livestock, native wildlife, and humans. Regardless of that stated opposition, the Board of Game and Inland Fisheries ultimately voted to establish a population of elk in the 3 counties of Buchanan, Dickinson, and Wise. Since that time, elk have, we know that elk have a relatively large home range area. They're known to migrate over 50 miles. Restoration of elk in counties adjacent to Lee, especially in Kentucky, has already been verified that they'll migrate across state lines, county lines, whatever. They've already traveled from Kentucky into Virginia.
You would think once they've seen that enter in Lee County, they just stop.
They don't come in on the highway. But the Board of Game and Inland Fisheries has now voted to prohibit elk hunting west of the Blue Ridge.
Oh, my.
Not just the 7 counties that they initially approached about this, but west of the Blue Ridge, which will further increase the likelihood of elk herds establishing in Lee County. So this resolution again states the board's opposition to reintroduction of elk in Southwest Virginia and further opposes current efforts to increase the elk population in Lee County. So that's resolution 15-015.
Chairman, I make a motion that we approve resolution 15-015 opposing elk restoration in Southwest Virginia.
Who's crazy?
For the 3rd time in a year?
Third
Third time in 6 years.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, got a motion on the floor and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Ah,
Opposed? Okay.
Also, we, in beginning construction on the new transfer station, that work has begun now, more in earnest. And Mr. Collinsworth and I have been looking, I think we've talked to you before some, the water line that serves the transfer station and the garage and forestry and bus shop, it looks like a out of control spider web, basically. It's just lines running everywhere. There's lines going places that sometimes they don't even know they're there until they see a leak coming up and they don't even know what the line serves. There's been lines that have just run out and have been capped and stubbed off. So it's just a myriad of problems. They're using more water than Gary thinks they should be now, and this also serves the dog pound. So it's hard to find leaks when you do have them. Their water froze up over there back in the winter, and they couldn't find it, and it came out. It was somewhere under some equipment that PSA had up with or a spigot or something that they'd installed. So what we proposed to do, and we had the engineer look at this to make sure the hydraulics would work, but right now, the town, the master meter for all that property up there is in the old curve on Route 70. Now that curve doesn't exist, you just go straight on up to the transfer station, but that's where the master meter is. Well, everything beyond that, the bus shop, forestry, PSA, the central garage, transfer station, and dog pound is all on one meter. There's a meter up there for the bus shop so that we can sort of segregate that out, but everything else goes out into all these other lines. We're proposing to leave that line up there. That would serve the bus shop. We could run a new line to forestry and serve central garage. I think central garage actually got a loop line that keeps them out of that mess anyway when we put them in, and serve them from that side. Go over to Route 70. The town, when they did the Sandy Ridge project, they backdoored and came back up 70 there and served some houses there in that area that had a lot of pressure problems anyway. It increased the pressure in there, and it would be, we've already talked to the property owner, Mr. Orr, who would give us an easement across his property, run up the edge of a road right in his field there, and to the edge, we start to angle over to the corner of the transfer station property, and then just go up the hill, hit the road, and right on across. You'd come to the dog pound first, and then to the transfer station. The engineers looked at it. He said the pressure should be better than what we've got now. The only question we've got is how far to run 4-inch line and how far to run 2-inch line. And I don't have a cost for you, but the proposal is, Gary says they could rent a ditch witch and do the ditch work himself. And that's one of the things he commented today about, as opposed to putting a roof in. He put one man on a ditch witch and let him work all day. He can't send one person down there to put a metal roof on. So he said we could do that with extra we got here when we had time. So if there's no objection from the board, and the cost of this we'll take out of our construction funds that we're going to be drawing down from rural development. So it won't be something that's in addition to budget items. I mean, it'll push the overall cost up just a little, but not a lot. The same is true, he mentioned about moving the scales. The plan is for transfer station staff to build a new, just pour a concrete pad and build a cinder block building for a new scale house, and then have the scale company come and move the scales for us. Go ahead and get everything ready. So, but they're willing to do the labor to actually construct the new scale house and move it closer to where the new transfer station is going to be, which pulls everything back further back into the property there. But we feel like we'd be served much better by this new water line and be able to control our leaks and pressure a lot better than we are now. And then once we do that, we can cut all those other lines completely off. Just cut that system off, and like I say, run a new line to forestry. It won't be but probably 150 feet to get to forestry with a new line.
Even a 2-inch line to go there though.
No, you could probably run a 1-inch and serve them. So that's going to be minor, and we'll be able to monitor leaks that way better. So if there's no objection from the board, we will pursue that. And I'm seeing heads nod, so I think we're in agreement to do that. All right, thank you. The only other, this was handed to me today, and this is the second time that this has come up. This is signed by all the electoral board members. They are recommending that the Robbins Chapel polling precinct be closed and combined. It actually, the western portion of that precinct would probably be best served, rather than moving them to St. Charles, would be just to move them to East Pennington. It's probably the same distance mileage wise, a little bit better road, and they can probably handle them better at East Pennington. And to send the eastern portion of those, which is going to be the majority of them, to Keokee. Now, we talked about having a place at the Keokee school property to be able to hold elections. If we close the Robbins Chapel precinct, that building is portable. It's a 12 by 20 or 12 by 24 building. We could put it on a trailer that we've got at the transfer station, move it to the Keokee school property, get them, Mr. Gullion pretty much told me down here the other night, that would be fine. We could move it up there, set it back up, put power to it, and it would be available from now on for elections. They've also got some information there on the number of people who have voted in the last 3 or 4 elections. There's potential for saving on election officials because you have 3 to 5 election officials there every election. And the last election, they had 73 voters. The highest count they've had in 4 years, and this was at the last county election in 2011, 107 votes. So they're looking at the potential to save costs and do away with that precinct. That's a request from them. I'm not asking for action tonight. I just passed on, I said, I'll pass this on to them tonight so that they can begin considering it. Now, if that is, if that's to be enacted before this November's election, it would have to be dealt with by the 1st of September because you cannot make any changes within 60 days of an election.
Another thing, cost, you know, we may have to buy new voting machines.
Yes, they've got that in there too. If you have to buy new voting machines, that saves you 1 or 2 machines right there. The same's true on these electronic poll books, which are in this year's budget. You would not have to purchase the electronic poll books either.
How much are they?
It's 16,000 county-wide, so I'm going to say they're at least $500 a piece, somewhere in that neighborhood.
The voting machines are what, about 12,000?
No. It's been a while since we bought ours. Maybe, I'm going to think more than $5,000 range. It depends on what you buy.
Well, that's...
And I don't know what's going to be available this time because they keep, what we bought was, you know, that was the big thing the state wanted. They wanted the touch screens, and I said at the time, pardon?
When did you buy them?
Can't remember now.
What do they want now?
Well, they're having some problems with some of them. If they don't generate what they call a paper trail,
Yeah, okay.
I saw problems with the touch screens when they first proposed them because any computer or any screen that you repeatedly touch loses sensitivity. The same thing's true of your scroll pad on a laptop. It loses sensitivity over time. Phones, anything that's touch screen loses sensitivity. And I've noticed it when I've been voting before. You tap it and it doesn't do anything, and you tap it 2 or 3 times and finally it'll register. So I think those, they did away with some this year. They've already said some of them are not going to be able to be used, but not what we use. Now, they'll continue to look at these, you know, everything that's being used in the state. A lot of what they're looking at now, they like the scanners. That's what they use for, and this is ridiculous because we're going right back to where we started 50 years ago, but I'm afraid this is where they're going. What they use now for absentees is a scanner, the Eagle scanner. And they say, oh, you know, those are great. You feed the paper absentee ballot in, it scans it, it records the vote. You've got the paper trail of it, and all the results are in the scanner. But I don't know that they'll go back to that, but a lot of people like the scanners because they say they're more accurate than the touch screens.
Well, those touch screens, I know one year I voted on being heard, another person did the same thing too. Whatever you voted for, it registered the opposite.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Whoever you voted for,
And
registered the opposite.
I don't think they'll ever go back to the old lever type. There was potential for error with them. There's potential for error with anything.
Everything.
But which one is least likely, or what's going to be the next latest greatest that they decide that everybody needs to have, I don't know. And no one knows yet if there'll be any state or federal funding to help purchase those either.
I doubt it. They'll probably try to shove that back on us too.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, that's just food for thought there tonight.
Ms. Rowe, what was I know we closed a couple precincts, what, a year or so ago?
Yes, when we did the redistricting, is that when we did them?
No, it was after that.
Oh, after that. Closed Stone Creek,
West Pennington.
and West Pennington, and then we relocated Stickleyville and Jasper,
Close North Johnson too.
and yes, consolidated North Jonesville with South Jonesville. Yeah,
Then you ain't got consolidated, where y'all live?
you ain't got moved.
Moved.
Yeah, it was moved up to the high school.
I'm just wondering, Ms. Rowe, if there was a reason back when we done all that, that wasn't, because that was one of the very, very small precincts.
Because it is so far from Romans Chapel to Keoki.
Oh, okay.
Well,
I knew there was a reason.
it's not as far as you think it is, because you don't normally drive that road, but if you drive that road with any regularity, it's no time to get up
20
and down
minutes?
through there. Nah.
No.
No, you can be in Roberts Chapel, Keoki in 10 minutes or less.
10
I can
minutes?
drive from the mouth of Holler to Keoki in between 15 and 20. Don't get in my way, but I can do it.
Well, I can't drive like that on those roads.
Well, I can't anymore, but back when I drove them every day, it was nothing.
Straightening the curves and flattening the hills, ain't it?
Yeah, it's not that far, really.
Sounds like part of a song, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mosley drives it at least once a week, but when I was driving to St. Charles every day and more than once, I could come through what's called the Gap of the Mountain from Stone Creek to Pennington, and there's only one place I'd get under 55, and that's right under Stone Base. That's the one and I could take it at 55 if nothing was coming. Watch that hole in the road because it's hot of it, you can't. But when you drive it every day, you get accustomed to it, and you knew the traffic patterns. But I don't drive it that way now.
I drove to Sigmund there.
Yeah,
It wasn't a bad drive.
no.
So you got, Mr. Pope?
That's all I've got.
Reports and recommendations of the board, Mr. Crabtree.
Yes, I had two. Mr. Poe, can we, I know we've done a resolution about the Beach Girl Road Bridge, getting it named in memory of Bo Cope. And then there was another gentleman, his family came forward that actually gave the land to build the initial building. His name is Cope as well. Those folks had talked to Mr. Martin, presented all the biographical information, and the last time we talked, you were going to try to find that.
I have, and I cannot find anybody that has that. Of course, Mr. Martin has had some health issues over the last several months, but I have talked to others. I've talked to his former secretary. I thought she might have it. She had nothing on it whatsoever. No one knows where it's at. And I mean, you know, if the family members can provide that, I'll be happy to work up a new resolution. I think what had been agreed on, we'd do it similar to the one at in West Pennington there. It has two names on it. The sign on one end of the bridge lists one name first. The sign on the other end of the bridge lists the other name first. So be happy to prepare it if somebody can just get me the biographical data.
Is there any way that you could look and see who conveyed that property for the original
To
bridge?
VDOT?
Would that,
When that bridge was first built.
or have Mr. Callahan, because, I mean, I know the lady, she lives in Knoxville, but I don't know her name. I just know the face, and the son that I do know, doesn't have all the dates. And he said his sister is more accurate with the dates. So I will look and see if Mr. Martin had emailed me that information. I don't believe he did, but, because I remember they came to my office one day, saw me, and I told them they needed to go talk to Mr. Martin. They did, and that's probably been over a year ago. I know it's been over a year ago.
It's been probably 2 years
Yeah.
ago. I'll see.
If we can get,
I'll probably go to VDOT on that, see if they can
if we can
find
find this information out, I mean, is there, I mean, the Transportation Board meets, what, every month or every 3
it.
months?
I'm not sure right now.
I mean, we should be able to get that in and get it done by
If
late
we get
fall.
the information, it's just a matter of the board adopting the resolution. We send
Right.
it straight on, and it'll go to their next meeting.
So, I mean, it shouldn't take that long. I mean, once, I guess, 2 areas gonna take the longest. Finding out exact information about the gentleman, and then getting the Transportation Board to move on.
And once they approve it, sometimes it can be 4 months before it actually filters all the way back down and everything happens. But I'll start work on that.
Now, we should hopefully have something done by fall.
Okay.
And that little project up in, Mr. Mosley mentioned Sigmund, and that got my, jogged my memory about that thing Mr. James has been working with this company, professors out of Virginia Tech, talking about taking the old sediment ponds and reprocessing that water and getting out. Has that started?
The research project, yeah, they've hired some employees.
Okay.
It's only like 3 or 4.
Sure.
In fact, I think I saw the report in the Powell Valley News that recapped that just in the last few days. But yeah, they have started. They're coming in, they've been flying in maybe once a month at least and having a meeting down here. But they were using the terminal building down there to do interviews a few weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago. So, but they have hired 3 or 4 employees.
Is that just, is it like a certain term they want like?
Yeah, it's just a research project is all it is. I'm not sure what the length of that is. And I think they're set up on Lone Mountain's property. It's where they've got it set up at.
I also wrote 911 signs. I read Mr. Bailey's report. Is there a problem getting the signs made or the post? I know that he said that they were combining with joint efforts with VDOT, and VDOT recommended or requires a 12-foot post versus a 10-foot post.
Yeah,
Just seems like we're getting more and more signs down and we can't get them back up.
I'll get with him a little more in depth and check on that. I'm not ready to report.
Sign on the western, you can't get a 10-foot in the ground.
We looked at, well, because of the number of signs that have to go on that post, and you have to stack them, so it's going to have to take a little bit longer post. But it may help in the long run that they are willing to share signposts with us instead
Well, I mean,
of.
I think that was
Adding
some
bulk.
of his reasoning, or it seems like I read that, or he may have reported that but I don't know if they were going into the share cost, or if they were just going into saying, hey, if you'll put up 12-foot signs, we can attach our signs to your post.
Yeah, and I can't remember, I attended the meeting with them that day, and it's been a while, and I don't remember exactly what was said, but I'll have to refresh my memory on that. But I'll get with Mr. Bailey on that and see where exactly we are.
Because a lot of these signs are, on a 4-lane, I mean, people can see them, and I will say again, as being an emergency management director, that, I mean, if we can't find the home of these agencies, emergency services, posts are not there, and personnel don't know where to go, and they're trying to find a needle in a haystack, I mean, it's a matter of life and death, especially with the number of elderly people that we have that need assistance to get out to the hospitals.
Well, it may be that we just need to have a little sit-down meeting with our vendor.
Well, that's what I guess that's what I was
probably what
dancing
needs to
around. I
happen.
mean,
We
is
need
our
to-
vendor the problem, or is it
Well,
going from
I
a
need to find
10-foot
out.
to a 12-foot post
Yeah,
is the
I need to
problem?
find out, and we may just need to have a meeting and refresh his memory on what he's agreed to do and how often.
Well, I think those posts and the amount of trash that Josh said that they'd been picking up.
It's
That's two
unbelievable.
things that really aggravate me. We've got these convenience centers located all throughout. I mean, they're not that far away, and then to have to pick up that much trash, and then these signs getting tore down. I mean, that's, what Crabtree said, sometimes it can be a matter of life and death if you've got somebody that's not real familiar with the area. I mean, it's, everybody needs to, yeah, I mean, if you see somebody tearing one down or something, it needs to be reported.
Yes.
I mean, that's,
That-
or if you know of anybody that's tore one down, because, it's costing us a lot of money to begin with, and then, it's, like I said, could be a matter of life and death too. I mean, it's really, them two things really aggravate me.
I was behind a truck Mother's Day going to see my mother, and I got the tag and called in, but they were both sides, driver's side, passenger side, just like they decided, hey, let's clean out the truck.
Yeah, before we get home.
And I mean, I was
we'll
right
in the
behind
house.
them, and they didn't, I mean, didn't mind them a bit that somebody was right behind them. So, we'll see.
mowed along the side of the road somewhere at the house, and went down one evening last week, started, and after the second big crack of thunder and the rain started picking up, I went on to the house. But I had already gotten off the mower and walked all the way up and down both sides of the road and picked up the trash. And then I was working on the hillside there and got to the road. Well, I got rained out. Went back 2 days later, started down through there, and I had to get off the mower several times to pick up new trash.
And I know that's
Just in 2 days' time.
That's an educate, you know, you have to educate people about that, but man, I mean, it just makes your community look terrible.
Yeah, it does. So you got Mr. Crabtree?
Yes, thank you, Mr.
The other thing I brought up the other night, Dane, was about the Wise Airport Authority.
Yes, I've sent an email to Mr. Scott in Wise County. I could not find anything online. Wise County or Lonesome Pine Airport does not have a website, so I couldn't go to their website and look for that information, and there's nothing in Wise County's ordinances pertaining to the airport. So I just sent an email to Shannon and asked him if he could get me a copy of the charter or something on the appointment process, and explained that since we had our own airport, I didn't think we were interested in having an appointee, and we can go ahead and take action as a governing body to just withdraw and not require that.
We've not appointed anybody to that board.
No.
Nobody knows when.
I don't know, but I did that the next morning, but it's not uncommon to take Shannon a little while to get back to you.
He may be on vacation.
I just thought of the lady, I was going to send it to his secretary, and I just thought of her name if she's not changed, and I couldn't think of it the other day, and I didn't have her email address. I'll send it to her tomorrow. I've got her name in my head now. I'll write it down so I don't forget it.
Mr. Mose, not to take away your time, I was actually talking with the contractor up at Cane Creek about that new bridge and the lane they're working on. I don't know if any of y'all have been through there lately, but they're getting ready to lay asphalt. And I think he said hopefully within the next 2 weeks that they'll have traffic shifted and be able to begin. And they talked about putting in precast concrete culverts, so he said he's hoping, you know, that project isn't going to take long at all and they're going to straighten it out to where it's all straight. So he said that would probably take longer than doing the bridge, is getting that straightened out, and then tearing it up what they had to fix to get a temporary lane or lanes. But I thought that was kind of exciting that they were going to have that ready to go soon.
You've just been asking about that for 7 years now, ain't you, Mr. Mose?
I'd just like to know where VDOT has that formed, because you know, as many times as they formed up them side things on that bridge, that they bound to kept that form somewhere.
Well, you'd have had to. It's been torn down 100 times.
That's all I got.
Mr. Lynn? Ms. Rupp?
I just have a couple things. Have you been able to get up with Comcast?
No, that's one, I've left it in my inbox so I don't forget it, but I just haven't got back with it, but I'll try to get that within the next week.
The last time I talked to him, he did mention Wise County and Shannon, and when you're talking about Shannon just now, if you talk to him, ask him if they're getting anything out of Comcast right now.
Okay.
And what about our 911 social media?
I haven't talked to Al about that yet. I'll get with him. This next week. I've got a note in the office to talk to him.
Okay, that's the only two things I had to follow up on. And then the last thing, I'd also like to ask the board to proclaim May as Huntington's Disease Awareness Month. We did this last year in April, and I guess April's just got away from me, but I'll read it again. Whereas Huntington's disease is a progressive degenerative neurological disease that causes total physical and mental deterioration over a 10 to 25 year period, and whereas HD results in a loss of cognitive, behavioral, and physical control, and presently HD slowly diminishes the affected individual's ability to walk, think, talk, and reason. There is no treatment or cure for this disease. And whereas there is a juvenile form of this disease which may affect children as small as 2 years old, and may affect 10% of individuals with HD who develop symptoms before age 20, And whereas an estimated 30,000 people in the United States are affected by HD, and 250,000 people are genetically at risk of inheriting HD from a parent. And whereas, since the discovery of the gene that causes HD in 1993, the pace of HD research has accelerated. And whereas the Huntington's Disease Society of America is celebrating Huntington's Disease Awareness Month in May to educate the public and support families affected by this devastating disease. Now therefore be it resolved, the Lee County Board of Supervisors do hereby recognize May 2015 as Huntington's Disease Awareness Month in Lee County and call this observance to the attention of all of our citizens. I would appreciate it if the board could do that again. And I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Dan, the bridge work's been completed on Old 58 at Lord East Steps Old Store. You know, we had passed a resolution for the signs, and not been put up yet.
Okay.
One more thing, I'd like to thank the board for agreeing to meet tonight on my behalf. It was at my request, and I appreciate you all's time and going along with it. So y'all can have next Tuesday night off to do is whatever y'all want to do.
We'll have fun next week.
Thank you. And that's all I've got.
Motion for a closed session investing public funds.
Okay, got a,
Audit service.
Motion for closed session pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A6.
invested public funds. Got a motion on the floor, to your second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, we're in executive session.